super microcomputer, SMCI stock, soaring. Now, I put out a video a couple weeks ago on SMCI stock immediately after the latest earnings release, and I kind of gave a valuation as to what I thought SMCI stock could accomplish. The price at the time was between 350 and 400, maybe 375. Since then, SMCI stock has soared further, much further. Now I'm getting messages to my YouTube channel asking questions, where do you think the top is? Fact is, SMCI stock has seemed to top out. So the question goes back to, what is SMCI stock worth? Is SMCI stock a good buy at this price? Now, the AI stocks, broadly speaking, are all surging. NVIDIA, of course, is leading the way. But when you look at NVIDIA itself, they're, of course, the backbone for the architecture for AI and AI stocks. But once individuals get the semiconductors from NVIDIA, how much growth would NVIDIA continue to have beyond that? This is something I put together with AI stocks video I did just yesterday. We introduced the next phase of AI stocks, and you look at SMCI stock and you say, that could be what is next. The reason is this. Super microcomputer, of course, kind of does the cloud computing and the backbone for servers, networking, things like that, for which would be needed for AI stocks. I look at NVIDIA and I say there's a lot of opportunity in here. Companies are surging to buy NVIDIA's semiconductors. But after they get those semiconductors, once they build up that architecture, SMCI, of course, will have services and cloud computing available for customers. This, to me, is the next step for the growth in AI stocks. Let's jump in. I want to show you what I think SMCI stock could be worth right now. Sure, there's still a lot left in the tank. It's priced slightly above where its yield could be valued appropriately. But if you look further into the future, there's still plenty of juice left for SMCI stock to move. I think SMCI stock is probably going to be stuck right where we are right now, probably see some moves downward with SMCI stock, but eventually, over the course of many weeks, quarters, months, and a couple years, SMCI stock will clear its current hurdle. But for now, might have topped out a little bit. Let's jump in and I'll show you what I'm looking at. As I mentioned in the intro, I had looked at SMCI stock just a couple weeks ago, and the price was right, I think about $375 at the time. And I felt like there was still a lot there. That, of course, SMCI stock shot up considerably. That video I had, of course, has done very well over the course of since I produced that, and it continues to garner a lot of interest. But this is where I'm getting those messages, and this is why I wanted to update SMCI stock a little further. Here we can see SMCI stock gets a lot of, say, non-traditional Wall Street chatter, aka Reddit, Wall Street bets, things like that. Understanding sort of the makeup of AI and how this will happen, you've got the semiconductors with NVIDIA. Then you have cloud computing and you have services. That's sort of what's next. And super microcomputer, SMCI stock, of course, does offer that. And that's where it's really going to be for me. Sort of, you see companies like super microcomputer who are going to outpace NVIDIA. I believe NVIDIA's rate of growth is going to start deteriorating. They will still continue to move higher, but at a much, much slower pace. Their revenue growth is probably going to taper off a little bit, and that will keep NVIDIA stock sort of contained, but still moving higher. This assumes, of course, that we don't see any kind of recession here in the United States. Inflation tends to be a problem, and this is something that's going to be a focus. In the meantime, as I mentioned, super microcomputer, it's one of the hottest stocks out there right now. And as these headlines show, not named NVIDIA. All right. Here, taking a look at SMCI stock, what's going on? The price surged almost to 1100. We may very well see SMCI stock continue higher, but at this point, right at where it is, about 875, that is overpriced, relatively speaking. Should SMCI stock dip a little bit, it becomes valued more appropriately from a value investor standpoint. But when we start seeing these big surges, people are going to take profits. And in case you don't believe that, all we have to do is look at the chart. SMCI stock, of course, surged. People took profits, and SMCI stock lost about 30% pretty fast. Moved back higher, probably going to continue to remain range bound, but I do believe we probably would see a correction in SMCI stock, and it would be a solid buy underneath these prices. If we start seeing 725 again, maybe even as low as 650, that's a strong value investment for SMCI stock. Taking a look at their latest quarter income, revenue, of course, 366. Projected revenue, this is where I really kind of focus my analysis. What does the future hold? What is the rate of growth? Now, a lot of people are saying, listen, AI is just going to simply take off. Well, yeah, that's true. The only problem with that is it takes time to build up the infrastructure for this. So these stocks aren't necessarily just going to go straight to the moon and then that's it. They sit there well beyond reasonable profitable levels. We are seeing projected revenues. I get these numbers off of analysts, and it's an average over several analysts. So revenue growth for 2024, and just so you know, SMCI stock there, the way they put their calendar, we're kind of in the middle of things here. The 1134 for 2024, a slightly lower increase for 2025, and that is really where I think some stockholders in SMCI stock are probably going to pump the brakes anytime they see the stock moving higher. If we do go above 1,000, people will probably take profits very quickly and maybe even play the game buying puts underneath, expecting that there would be a rational move lower. All right, gross margins, 15.54%. That's kind of low. They'll need to work on that and get them above 20%. Operating margins, 10.14, but net margins about 8%. Overall, from a value investing standpoint, their margins get outperformed by the S&P 500. The S&P 500 prints about 11.25 for net margins over the past couple quarters. The thing is, though, the revenue growth rate is what you're really kind of investing in, and that's why SMCI stock has shot up as much as it has. Now, price to earnings ratio. This should be a red flag, 76.25. What's happened is the price has pushed up so high when considering future revenues. Current revenues right now, 76.25. They don't have the revenue to hold on to the current valuation. But you look forward the next 4 quarters. That's why we're at a 76.25. Earnings per share, $5.59 in the latest quarter, but this is where I really kind of look at things. $21.68 for 2024 and then $29.13 for 2025. Projected earnings per share. These are what analysts expect SMCI could accomplish. Now the nice thing is 2026, 2027 and onward. AI is going to be huge, but it's going to be a progression of these stocks moving higher with earnings per share. That's why we saw SMCI stock sell off when it almost hit 1100. Given that, current SMCI yield the next 4 quarters, now 26.96, because we're kind of in the middle of 2024 and 2025. I use the next 4 quarters and I asked a simple question: what can we expect for the next 4 quarters? Add that together, divide that over top of the current price. Your yield, 3.065%. It's not terrible. It's not terribly overpriced. The U.S. Treasury yield right now, 4.275%. QQQ, this of course is the NASDAQ ETF, 3.416%. So given the next 4 quarters, SMCI stock is overpriced relative to other stocks. Does that mean SMCI stock will move higher? People are rushing into AI stocks. You get all this chatter from Reddit, what's Wall Street bets, things like this. They're rushing in. But then people will be taking profits. We almost hit 1100. Then SMCI stock got flattened. And that should be sort of the pattern that you're looking for. At this valuation, it's overpriced slightly. Not too much, but slightly. Probably more in the range of about, say, 725, 675 in that range, given the current $27 looking at future earnings per share. That could bring yield closer to the treasury yield and the stock market broadly speaking. Now for me, the way I break things down, I'm looking for the stock market overall to start selling off in, say, August, September, October, November, going into next year. The reason why, inflation isn't going to fall as low as fast as the Federal Reserve wants. Over the next couple of months, they're probably going to start talking up interest rates. This will make the broader stock market pause, if you will. We're at records. But the yield, the U.S. Treasury yield, the 10-year Treasury yield is outperforming the broader stock market. Warren Buffett has like $150 billion in bonds, treasuries, versus the potential to earn less, considering how high the broader stock market is. So if you are looking at SMCI stock as a long-term investment, you may want to look to purchase after we see some kind of slowdown in the stock market and we see the stock market moving much lower. That yield will move higher. Now these companies, despite the fact that we might see interest rates moving higher and the economy contract somewhat, a lot of these companies are still going to get in there and buy what they need to move forward with AI. So this would be an excellent opportunity in the future to buy on the dip, because that yield isn't really going to change much, because these companies are going to ramp up over the course of many years. So Super Microcomputer is going to do very well. In the meantime, however, you may want to consider looking at puts, buying puts, thinking that SMCI stock, if it does surge up above, say, 900 again, 950, 1050, getting close to 1100, that would be the time that you would be looking to buy puts a couple months out, because I expect the broader stock market to fall somewhat. SMCI stock would move lower, but then that's a long-term buy on the dip. Make sure to hit that like and follow button. I've been doing a whole series on AI stocks. This is probably the third or fourth that I've done over the past couple of days. I did a whole video just yesterday on a whole bunch of the stocks. You'll want to pay attention to how these companies are growing. Hit that like and follow button. Thanks so much for the comments. We'll see you in the next video.